why, in your opinion, B2B companies are increasingly leaning more towards hybrid agency fractional CMO model?
Well, it's a very interesting model, especially for companies that are looking for new ways to growth with a healthy sense of urgency. They want to see the returns within 60 to 90 days versus a hiring process of hiring new people, which can take up to 6 to 9 months. So on one hand, with the hybrid model, you get a fractional CMO that architects that growth strategy, and that's coupled with an agency that is seamlessly working together with a fractional CMO that provides the horsepower, but also the sector expertise to scale up quickly.
Have you seen any example of success?
This was with a sustainable additive manufacturing company who was kind of struggling to get to growth. Currently, they were getting about 5 to 10 inbound leads a month. So we came in together with the agency. The results came in. Inbound leads got all the way up to 50 inbound leads a month.
Is it the most efficient model for an organization to ensure that they reach the goals that they put forward?
Great question. What I typically see is that
anyone who's valuation-minded lives by EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. But what about community-adjusted EBITDA? If that sounds fishy, well, it is. Community-adjusted EBITDA is the custom metric WeWork used for years to inflate its valuation to $47 billion. The metric excluded things like rent and build-out costs, which just happened to be some of the co-working giants' largest expenses. It was, after all, a glorified real estate company, not a tech firm like the CEO would have had you believe. This custom definition of EBITDA, along with other misleading practices, made WeWork appear profitable. In reality, it was losing billions. And it came crashing down when WeWork filed for the IPO. Investors saw its staggering losses and questionable leadership. Then they balked. The company's valuation collapsed to $8 billion within weeks. The IPO was scraped. The CEO resigned, and SoftBank had to bail out the company. The WeWork scandal may be extreme, but it begs the question, how can company engineer true growth, the kind that increases valuation in multiples based on concrete data? What role does marketing play in boosting EBITDA? And how can agency and fractional CMOs work together to drive real growth for B2B and PE-backed companies? If you are having trouble separating fact from fiction, fear no more. The truth about EBITDA is out there, and we're going to help you uncover it. Welcome to the HEX-Files Energy Marketing Podcast with me, your host, Arnaud Dasprez. If you want to believe, you've come to the right place. Today on the HEX-Files, we'll be exploring growth. And by growth, we mean an increase in EBITDA that comes from integrating 4 key domains: branding, marketing, sales, and service. This is the foundation of what we call the growth engine. In this episode, we're tackling growth engines from a unique perspective, the collaboration between fractional CMOs and agencies, and specifically ones who serve private equity-backed companies. There's no one better to investigate this than Frederik Klaarenbeek, founder and chief marketing officer of Klaarenbeek Advisory and Marketing Services, or CAMS for short. Frederik helps growth-stage B2B companies, including many that are PE-backed, unlock new potential through go-to-market strategy, brand positioning, and high-impact revenue marketing. He brings an unquestionable growth mindset, aligning teams from strategy to execution across global markets. He's fluent in Dutch, English, and several other European languages, and he happens to have collaborated with Hexa Group on multiple client engagements. Welcome to the HEX-Files, Frederik. Let's uncover the truth. Hey, Frederik, how are you doing today?
very good. It's always good to see you, Arnaud, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, well, today we have a couple of topics of conversation, but let's get down to it right away. So we're both working in B2B and talking about B2B in marketing, marketing in B2B. And so why, in your opinion, B2B companies are increasingly leaning more towards kind of a hybrid agency fractional CMO model?
Well, it's a very interesting model especially for companies that are looking for new ways to growth with a healthy sense of urgency. And they want to see proof points. They want to see the returns within 60 to 90 days versus a hiring process of hiring new people, which can take up to 6 to 9 months. So on one hand, with the hybrid model, you get a fractional CMO that architects that growth strategy, is seasoned in the industry, so it can hit the ground running. And that's coupled with an agency that is seamlessly working together with the fractional CMO that provides the horsepower, but also the sector expertise to really hit the ground running and scale up quickly. So for that company, within 60 to 90 days, you have sharpened your value proposition, understood your buying journey better, and most importantly, you have the first campaigns up and running to really show you the first results of how things are going and delivering the revenue that you're looking for. Maybe a last thing, it isn't a fix for everything. I mean, if your company is still in flux of organizing itself, that might not be yet the best situation to come in with all that horsepower and strategy. Let's first make sure that the organization around the fractional CMO and the agency has settled to a certain extent before you bring them in.
Yeah, I mean, so I get it. I mean, it's practical, it's efficient, it even be cost efficient from that point on, and you have a lot of flexibility. Let's go a little bit deeper here and look at, if we're looking at, okay, you're getting a CMO and you're getting an agency, so the right agency, the right CMO, what for you, CMO brings uniquely to the table, kind of versus the agency, how they fit in, like the perfect glove.
What a fractional CMO brings uniquely is actually maybe helpful to look at it through the lens of being a chief transformation officer. In 30 days, a fractional CMO provides an kind of a cross section or X-ray of the organization, how we're doing on go-to-market strategy, generating the revenue, but then quickly sets the expectations, the OKRs, the objectives and key results for the company, make sure there's buy-in top to bottom, and starts to build that demand gen engine, coaching the team, insert capabilities, and have that operating rhythm inserted in the company to make sure that we're all aligned and we all know when things are going wrong and we are very on the ball when we need to countermeasure that. They're already working to such extent to build a new capability of the organization and kind of prepare for their own exit. And that's kind of different versus hiring a chief marketing officer that needs to be the right person for the transformation, but also longer term. Whereas a fractional CMO is there for a certain period of time, can easily say the hard things and no politics, and can actually doesn't have to worry with his tenor. He walks in with a playbook, not a learning curve. He really is focused on the ROI, the CAC, the cost of acquiring customers. Do we have the right pipeline? And do we win? So he brings laser focus right from the start and is really equipped to make sure we stay focused without any further strings attached. His biggest string is to the CEO in that respect to make sure execution is as planned. So it brings speed, clarity, a clear strategy, and the authority to execute.
And so the perfect agency to actually fit in and complement that skill set that the fractional CMO brings on. What were
Yeah, the agencies is also a special type of agency. They need to be joined at the hip with the fractional CMO, understanding the playbook, but have the multidisciplinary expertise. So we want to work with one agency that can do it all at pace, so at scale as well. But if you execute, you better be right. So you have to understand the sector. The agency therefore brings the expertise of what's working, what's not working, has been at different companies, understands best practices. So also the agency has little to no learning curve, knows how to apply to make sure that we have the right content, assets, channels, and a campaign setup that is all set for success. So they are really focusing on kind of 4 items like the SEO, paid search, so the digital marketing, make sure they have production capability, bring in the cross learnings, and really tight at the hip with that fractional CMO. That makes them very successful.
okay? And any example of success or any example of a relationship that failed and why? Have you seen that?
There are many examples, but maybe the most telling one was when we got asked to help in fairly late stage. This was with a sustainable additive manufacturing company who was kind of struggling to get to growth, high ambitions. They were acquired by private equity and really had to step up and show difference. Currently, they were getting about 5 to 10 inbound leads a month. They're virtually invisible if you look at the media, if you looked at their website. But in 2 months, they were preparing for Formnext, the biggest additive manufacturing show on earth. So we came in together with the agency. We quickly mapped out what their true differentiators were, clarified that, sharpened their positioning in the first 3 weeks. We started to build new content, new narrative, which we used to launch their new website. It's kind of a revamp of their website in a matter of 6 weeks. Together with that, we launched the first account-based marketing campaigns to also test and make sure that we hit the narrative with our target audience. And we came out at Formnext with a refreshed narrative, all in a matter of less than 2 months. And after those 2 months, the results came in. I mean, Meltwater showed that we had the highest coverage at the Formnext show, which was quite impressive. Inbound leads got all the way up to 50 inbound leads a month. And within those 2 months, we actually got now a seat at the table at the incumbent accounts that were hard to penetrate. So all in all, we got this company in 2 months on a growth stage with new accounts, with really the sales discussions happening. And when I left, it was an easy call for them to hire a full-time CMO to take over from them. It would not have been possible if the fractional CMO and the agency had no time to waste and were actually hitting the ground running because they were so well versed with the sector, knew both the playbook, understood best practices. So we're quickly zooming in on the vital few things that needed to be fixed.
Yeah, I saw you mentioned PE, right? And we both work quite extensively with a private equity backed kind of organization. In my experience, marketing has been an afterthought. I mean, in most cases, again, working in industrial services, energy, but it is not much of an afterthought anymore. And what do you see in terms of evolution, and what do you see your role, working with those coming in?
Yeah, I see that you can read the literature, the articles about private equity 3.0. It has a lot to it, but one of the components is to get marketing earlier involved. Typically, just to set the stage, after a private equity acquisition, the first focus is really on operational efficiency, financial restructuring. Then the attention moves to sales effectiveness, sales acceleration, and maybe then working with engineering and finally marketing. Now, what are people recognizing, or the industry is recognizing, that these are phenomenal value added changes that are happening at the company. However, customers, the market is still unaware. And we're also losing time by not building up the demand gen capabilities in parallel. So now seeing that marketing is indeed that when you have all the goods, marketing is that growth multiplier on one hand, and also so enables the company to grow, but also is a big factor in de-risking the thesis of M&A to make sure that we have a better understanding of our customers, we have a stronger ICP defined, the narrative is really vetted and resonates with our audience. So no time to waste. Why would you by getting marketing involved? The next step is then to have marketing also involved in the due diligence. So even before the M&A, to already have mapped out where are the gaps, the good stuff. Any fractional CMO coming in doesn't have to waste even a week to get going.
And so, what are for you, the common pitfalls post acquisition?
I wish there was a standard list. There isn't, but I think one of the things is that we just talked about is in due diligence, spend some time also on highlighting your go-to-market strategy, your demand gen engine. How is that working? And if you then double click on that, you typically see that from a marketing perspective, that the OKRs, the objectives, the key results, the metrics, the objectives are not tied as strong as they could to the overall business strategy, the business objectives. So as a result, there's less focus within marketing. We don't know what good looks like. There are a lot of activities ongoing, but there is little focus. So that's one thing. And then you quickly stumble into the lack of data clarity, taxonomy. So if you look at the funnel, are we aligned on the funnel metrics and definitions? If you cannot measure it, if you don't have healthy or hygiene of your data, you probably will not be able to steer. So that's a big number two. And then number three, which you quickly found out, is that the messaging tends to be somewhat dull. It's not bad, but if you want to stand out from competition, you need to bring something extra. You need to show that you really understand your customer unmet needs to another level of detail, and not only for the buying person, but probably also that committee of stakeholders that he is talking to when he's making this acquisition. So a broader range of personas. That's typically what I see most as the most critical ones that need to be fixed. Yeah.
Yeah, and so if we look a little bit from a almost like a timeline standpoint, let's look at so marketing, first few months of, and then let's go through kind of the life cycle. Is there kind of a magic formula, and do this private equity start looking at those and implementing?
Yeah, I think it's maybe also, I talked about chief transformation officer. You can also look through that lens. When you come in, your first impressions that you make, your first steps are crucial to set the stage and create understanding of the organization, what we're trying to do here. So those first 30 days are crucial. So for the fractional CMO to get a good understanding of the go-to-market effectiveness, how's the funnel, taxonomy, are we clear? Have the discussions with the internal stakeholders, so the CEO, but also engineering, product, sales, what is required for their success. And then go into, are we clear on the ICP, so the ideal customer profile, the personas, the buying journey, what are the proof points that we have, where are the gaps? So within kind of those 30 days, you have already assessed what good looks like. You have a playbook. You have the key priorities defined into an OKR, which is not only a funnel metrics, but also what's the muscle that I'm trying to build here. And you start after that first one, you start with your first campaign to get going, to already start the assumptions and hypotheses, test them out, and see what works, overdrive it, and if not, kill it. So in month two, you come out with the first reviews with the team on how the campaigns are going, and you have established that operating rhythm. And to take it a bit further, so after that, you have three levels of operating: the weekly, where you really look at the funnel; you have your monthly, where you look at the campaigns, but also the brand. How are you building the muscle? And then typically on a quarterly basis, you overlook the full funnel with sales, with leadership, to see how the investments are going. And I typically look at, what is the cost of acquiring a customer? Is it going down? How's my pipeline coverage? Do I see those MQLs moving forward to the stages of SQL all the way to wins? What's the feedback from sales? And last but not least, on those wins, what is creating those wins? So you look also at the attribution of the marketing initiatives, assets, if you will, which are really driving wins. So you can already start to improve upon those as well. So after that 90 days, you really have already the first operating rhythm up and running, vetted. You know what's working, you know what isn't working, and moving forward, you continue to hone that model. So those are the first kind of 60, 90 days, which are crucial.
And you're bringing that agency partner right from the get-go?
The first assessment of the situation, including those discussions with leadership team on making sure the focus is right, the objectives are clear. Soon thereafter, when you take that playbook, you bring in the agency because you're executing. So that's really within those 30 days, you are sitting together with the agency to go through the playbook, the plans, what are the gaps, the pitfalls where we have to watch out for, and get going. Yeah. It's, by the way, also important, as I just explained, that operating rhythm, and that's something that is often forgotten. Those dashboards, those reviews are not looking at data. This is really about understanding the data. I've come across so many sessions where we see, let's say, the MQLs trending up beyond expectations. Great, but why? Are we asking the critical question, why is it happening, and do we understand it therefore, and can we do more of it? The same thing when it goes down. And this is tough, especially in the beginning when the data is maybe still not perfect and not as broad as we want it to be. But this is where the whole organization then starts to understand what is successful with the customer, which customers are coming in, by the way, and really create an understanding of success versus failure. That brings the whole organization um, on the same page, if you will, including leadership. Very important to solidify and making sure there's no gap, there's no light in between the collaboration of the fraction CMO, the agency, and of course the internal stakeholders.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Let's go a little bit further then in our timeline and past that critical first phase. Where does the fractional CMO, does the fractional CMO leave? What is his, does he stay on board? And what is kind of our best approach here?
Well, the first timeline for me, it is to bring the return on the investments of course, myself, the agency, and everything we invest in the campaigns. So I need to show to the business that there is a payback within 12 months. That's shown by reduced customer acquisition, MQLs throughout the funnel coverage we talked about, and we have really an uplift of a win rate of 5 to 10 points. So really critical items. That is kind of the first point to see, okay, where are we going? How good are we already after those 12 months? Sometimes at that moment, company has worked on their own org chart and decides to hire their own CMO to take over from there. So that is then a transition period. Sometimes you stay longer with the company. You build out those capabilities. You make sure the execution get honed and further improved. You typically step in where there's a new initiative within the company. You want to go to a new market, new geographies, if you will, or new product, new technology. You're being brought in to help out there. And then you stay until the exit, which is then a different process that you are entering into, of really binding it all together instead of kind of focus on growth. You start to bind it up, and you build a story of the new strategic positioning that was created, the narrative of the company, the collateral that has been created. You really understand your customers. You show the proof points, the performance of acquiring new customers. You talk about the brand, digital presence. So you really build a full package that shows you have a full-blown, mature, successful and operating marketing demand engine.
And
So kind of you can go after 1 year to maybe a year and a half for the next CMO to take over, or you can stay a longer period of time where you then is your exit is together with the exit of the company in the hands of a new buyer, and there you work on the sim and the whole M&A story together with leadership.
and in terms of exit and the value of the brand, in your multiple, have you seen some much stronger interest in the private equity world for building that brand because they see the light at the end of the tunnel?
Yes, I think the brand is, it sounds so fluffy, but it isn't. The brand is represented, it can be measured quite well by things as, are we getting a premium price for our products? So people understand the value of the brand. Do we see the win rates of our in our funnel moving up sustainably? Do we see the NPS score rising and be at a industry best levels? So the brand is a factor of showing you your success. A brand also enables you to, when you launch new products, to be more successful because you have created trust in the brand, which makes it easier for customers to have the trust and to adopt to it. So those are key metrics, for example, that lead you to believe that you have created a strong brand. And now coming to the M&A part, the next buyer, to what you mentioned, they're just not looking at the static EBITDA. They're looking at a company that is able to grow further than that. So with these metrics of the brand, you definitely show that this is a company that has a high trust, credibility at customers, has a go-to-market strategy that's really working, acquiring new customers day by day, and is getting actually the premium on price that others don't, because this is a trusted and brand with a clear value proposition.
And so you talk quite a bit on metrics, right? And metrics that matter. So, which if you had to pick the top ones you really want your team to track monthly or yearly, can you give us a brief summary here of those?
Yes, there are kind of three levels. This first one on trying to define the brand, and we spoke a little bit about some of the metrics, but I also look at, do we have the right reach? So we look at the website, social media, and of course, it's not only with the brand on the website, SEO, but also GEO. So how are we popping up on the AI search? So, and then you look at the media mentions. Are we present and visible within the media landscape? But then we quickly go to do the funnel. So I look, of course, at the cost of acquiring a customer, the CAC. We look at the coverage of the funnel. It's not only inflow, but we have the 2x, 3x coverage that I want to have for a funnel, especially from strategic programs. You might want to go to the 3, not to the 2. 2x coverage, and then win rate. That is really the proof of the pudding. Do we win? And then I look at other factors that show, are we effective in getting our message across? We talked about price, and the third, so brand, funnel, and the third category is, are we building an organization that is capable of generating demand and growing this company, therefore? So I look at the marketing muscle that we're trying to build. And that's something we defined at the first instance with the OKRs. And you can think of things like, do we have a taxonomy? Do we have clean CRM data? Never rest there. There's always this infamous category of other. We got to kill it. We got to make sure that we know exactly what we're doing. Are we getting an attribution from the first to more influence, the attribution all the way to the win? What created that? So understanding we are doing that in a better way. So then you start to build muscle, and its capability within the team, the MarTech that you want to implement, the operating rhythm that you want to hone. And maybe it's good to say that there's a lot of to talk about. I get it. Brand, funnel, and that you're building your muscle, but with that, focus not on top of the funnel, and just so how many MQLs are we generating? How many views do we get? It's really further down the funnel where the value is. Secondly, brand awareness, media, it's great. But if we don't increase our prices, we can increase our prices because of that, or increase our win rate, we're nowhere. We don't have a strong brand. An example was when I was working for an energy company, that we kind of transformed from a legacy to a innovator. One of the first things we saw that made impact was really price. Price stuck twice as much as a success rate of increasing price as before, which actually led to a massive EBITDA increase of more than double digit, let me say that, to the company. And that was, of course, due to sales doing a phenomenal job in implementing the prices, but also backed up by a marketing story that makes clear to the customers why they're paying extra.
Yeah, I mean, so really you measure, but what you really pointed out is to be able to act based on this, what you see, and act quickly. So before we wrap up here, it's pretty clear this agency that teams up with the CMO, is that kind of following up, following the organization from that first 60 days to all the way through exit? Is it the most efficient model for kind of an organization to ensure that they reach kind of the goals that they put forward, or they strategize?
Great question. What I typically see is that the involvement of the agency becomes more focused on when there's our new initiatives or you have a spike in demand. And then the agency is always the selective one because this agency has lived through the changes, understands the concept perfectly, has proven that they bring in best practices to the company. But on the other hand, also this marketing team or commercial team has grown in capabilities and performance. So has been taking on more of the daily routines, is able to also form the narratives, hone the buying journey, work on the proof points, if you will, and needs less day-to-day support from the agency. But an agency has made its mark, has proven the value, and typically stays with the company a lot longer.
So the agency educates the team can take on a lot of those tasks and activities, and then the agency can focus on the new initiatives moving forward. That's kind of what you see.
Yeah, because they still bring the uniqueness of, industry expertise, best practices at scale and at speed. And that is just not possible within a lean organization as we would like to have it. So an agency is perfect to accelerate those strategic initiatives without overstressing the organization because of it, but come out with quality.
Okay. So if you wanted to talk specifically to industry leaders and PE firms, what would be kind of your closing statement on really the importance of marketing and building the right model to get where you need to be?
Yeah, I'm, I would say, a fairly seasoned marketeer, but really with a growth or manager's mindset. It's really to achieve business objectives. And in that context, I build brands with a impactful, efficient demand gen engine. My expertise is really with advanced industrial, with energy tech. I'm very passionate about driving decarbonization forward. And these are all markets with kind of a complex and long pipeline. And that's where I excel to bring those companies to growth in a accelerated fashion. So if you have such a situation, you're looking for new growth, feel free to give me a call. You can email me as well at Frederik@Klaarenbeek.com or call me at 425-315-6531. But of course, that's also going to be in the show notes. I know it was a pleasure to have this discussion with you and, of course, touch a lot of topics. I'm looking forward to our next endeavor.
Thank you, Frederik, and we'll talk very soon. Thank you for all your good information here. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the HEX-Files, the podcast that investigates the biggest curiosities in energy marketing so that you can separate fact from fiction. Curious how your brand ranks across 6 areas of energy marketing performance? Take a free assessment at hexagroup.com/podcast. And until next time, fear no more. The truth is out there.